Okay, welcome to Woke Wild Woman podcast. My name is Bethany Evans.
Tell us more about you, Bethany.
Well, let's see. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an early childhood educator and an ontological life coach. I also do tarot card readings and just into all things metaphysics and crystals. And who are you?
I'm Roxanne Sailors from Bellingham, Washington, way up north. I wear many hats. I am a Renaissance woman. I like to consider myself a wise woman. My primary focus right now is embodied movement. So I teach people how to get into their bodies through movement. I'm also a doula, which for people who don't know what a doula provides emotional and educational support for parents going through childbirth. So I am the support person before, during, and after birth. And I'm an ontological coach in both of those spaces. I'm also a musician.
That's right. Gosh, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Roxanne and I created the Woke Wild Woman podcast to bring together creative women from all over the world to talk about what they're up to in the world and to just create community and sisterhood. And our theme is talking about nature-based spirituality and how that shows up for us in our individual lives. And we all have unique gifts to share with each other. So that's what we're doing for each other by creating this, and then whoever's listening. And if you're in the area of any of the women that we have on, we're hoping that they promote their services and their what they're doing in the world so that you guys can find them and hopefully work with them as well. So I think we are all natural healers, and we have, like I said, unique gifts to share with the world. So today, our guest is Hayden, and she is a massage therapist based in San Diego. So Hayden, welcome. Thank you for coming on and being our first guest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Awesome. So we're just going to jump right in, and I would love to hear about what brought you to this moment here. So your backstory, and as it relates to how you identify as being a woke wild woman.
Okay. Well, that's a loaded question. The first thing I would say is I've always considered myself a wild woman. Even as soon as I heard those words, it resonated very deeply with me. I remember in my 20s, I found the book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, and it was like, yes. I think I've given that book to, I've bought probably 20 copies of it. I've given it to almost every woman I know. I consider that my Bible. It just resonates so deeply with me about the natural, instinctual, wild part of us women, that we are part of nature. I mean, I resonate with wolves. I love wolves. If you can see, I love that too. And so it was just always sort of a calling. It's interesting. If I were to consider myself, I always say, like, I'm a wild woman, I'm a mermaid, a healer, an intuitive, an empath. Some of these I knew early on. And so I always had the sense that it was there. I remember in college, I grew up in the Bay Area, in the middle of Silicon Valley, was surrounded by a lot of money, and I knew very clearly I wanted nothing to do with corporate America. It was like so clear. And so my life has always had, taken an alternate path, and it hasn't always been easy, but I would say it's been a lot more fun. I've always felt a deep connection to the natural world, being in nature, being in the ocean, in lakes, rivers, and just, I love music, I love dance, I love moving my body. I went to massage school when I first moved to San Diego in 2001, and I then went and got my master's in counseling psychology from a depth psychology school. So I was always drawn to the deeper realms. I'm a Capricorn, So,
Yay!
Yay! And I just can't tell you how many times in my life I've heard, you're too serious, you're too deep, you're too intense, you're too intimidating, you're too powerful. And so it's something that I've had to come to terms with, through the course of my life. I'm 42 years old now, and I feel like I have a level of profound acceptance for myself and who I am, for that deep nature, for that the wild woman that I am. And at this point, I would say, I am finding this amazing, beautiful tribe of other wild women that also have felt that call and want to live from that just beautiful, deep, authentic place. So
Beautiful. I absolutely agree. So, what are you creating in the world right now?
what am I creating? So two things. One, I'm creating my most beautiful, authentic, rich life. And from that, part of that is my work as a massage therapist. So it's one of those that I think a lot of people live very compartmentalized lives. Like they have their job and then they kind of have fun, or they somehow do entertainment. And to me, like being a wild woman and being like, it's like my whole life is my art. So my whole life is my calling. So whether it's working as a massage therapist or in the relationships that I have with women and with men, it's to create that space for authenticity, to empower each other, to and specifically what I've really been working on in the last, I would say 6 to 9 months, is really balancing the masculine and feminine energies, not just, I would say in a personal level within myself, within my clients. I can see what's going on, physically in their body, but the difference between the left side and the right sides of their bodies, and then our ways of being in the world that are predominantly more masculine or feminine. And so really taking that on for myself and then holding space for that with my clients, sharing that with my girlfriends, and then also seeing that play out in a larger collective area, in the collective world of what's going on right now in men and women really awakening. And so wanting to support the men who are doing this powerful work, because I think they're more scared than we are. Also supporting my soul sisters, like we're just all on this journey together. So what I would say really is creating this tribe of men and women who are already awake, who are awakening more, supporting each other, empowering each other, holding space for each other, and then also being that light that attracts the people that are drawn to the way I think that we've always lived. That there's some people that, like, I feel like they're just coming out of a coma, and we're like, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
The party.
Totally.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that you brought in, the masculine and the feminine, because yes, we are kind of focusing on women here, and bringing women together, but we have a counterpart, which is masculine, right? And we also have both within us, like you mentioned. And
what happened? Sorry, 1 second. I lost you. 1 second. What happened?
We can still hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I just lost the video real quick.
This is an authentic, live podcast.
Honestly, I needed.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
Well, I needed to turn the air conditioning on because I'm starting to sweat, and so I accidentally pushed a button because I run hot. My fire burns hot. Woohoo!
It's still recording, and we can still see you. So.
Okay, that's fine.
And you can hear us, right?
Yes. All right.
Okay, cool. So, so what I was saying was, I love that you brought in the dynamic between masculine and feminine, because as women and feminines, we are the ones who are connected to source more easily, I guess, than men. I don't want to say more easily, but that's just naturally what we are meant to do, right? To tap
Yes.
into our intuition. And that's one of our superpowers, to just naturally be able to do that. Therefore, men can and do rely on us for that. And therefore, we are kind of guiding them in that way.
Yes.
So I think it's really important to mention how important we are to each other and that we need to work together. And we're not feminists. Like, I absolutely love men, just as I know you guys do. And also we all have sons, right? And
Yes.
you mentioned too, I was going to ask you about your journey as a mother and how that possibly played into your awakening as a feminine or as a woman. And then also playing into your thesis that you wrote. Because you talked about, well, I'll let you talk about that, but I have it here and I started reading it and I'm absolutely just like floored by it. So why don't you talk about your journey as a mother?
Yeah. Well, and it's, this is such a powerful, triangle that we're in here. And that's kind of what I meant, how like I always felt that call. So I knew early on in my 20s, long before I even have kids, that I wanted to, I believed in natural childbirth. And I would have this, I wrote my master's thesis on natural childbirth. It's called The Ring of Fire, the psychological purpose of pain in childbirth. And so in my introduction, I talk about how even in my early 20s, I would have this like visceral reaction to when women would say, "Oh, give me the drugs." And it was like, I was kind of like a Nazi about it. And so when I started graduate school, when I was 28, I got pregnant with my oldest son, Cooper, right after the first quarter of graduate school. And so going through that first year allowed me, because we had to choose a thesis topic. And because I was learning and studying everything about childbirth and, breastfeeding and circumcision versus not circumcision, all aspects of that allowed me to dive deeply into like, what was it really that I was so passionate about? And so through the course of my thesis, what I discovered is I felt like women, we were giving our power away, and we had been robbed of our power as to birth naturally, like our inherent knowledge and wisdom in how to birth naturally, and it had been stripped away into this totally fear-based thing. And so really and there was anger, but behind the anger was this deep sadness that we'd been robbed, and we had willingly given away this power that it is completely, solely unique to women to be able to give birth, that the body wisdom that that our bodies know how unconsciously, like we don't even really need to show up consciously, our bodies know what to do in order to, grow a fetus, to give birth, all the physiological processes that happen during childbirth and after childbirth and breastfeeding. It's just absolutely miraculous. And so it was this deep sadness that women were like not even experiencing that. And then also the psychological part of it is, it was a rite of passage. It was an initiation, as you cross that threshold from being a single woman into motherhood, and that, what was possible for a woman if she were to consciously experience the pain of childbirth without trying to medicate it away or, push it away. And one of my favorite quotes is that, I'm going to paraphrase now, but basically that there's neurotic suffering and authentic suffering, and that, neurotic suffering is something when you try to avoid the pain, you just kind of get stuck in this loop and you kind of create more pain. Whereas authentic suffering has the potential for transformation. And so that's where, if you can experience childbirth naturally and consciously, that there's profound transformation available for women.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so, that I gave birth to both of my boys. They were both born on their due date. I had both of them naturally. I actually had my son Cooper at home on accident. I was not aware that I was in labor until he was almost born on the toilet. But honestly, I didn't trust those fuckers at the hospital. Research that I had done is that, your chance that I was not going to have a C-section. I trusted myself implicitly way more than any doctor or nurses. And so he was born at home, but I absolutely loved being pregnant. I loved giving birth. I loved breastfeeding. It was an amazing experience. And so that really is interesting you say. I've wanted to become a doula as well, Roxanne, and I've looked into that a couple times. And I think I know this is one of your questions, like what would I like to create in the future, is really, part of my practice to work specifically with pregnant women and to be able to offer them not just the prenatal massage, but the kind of counseling throughout their pregnancy and after, so that, pregnancy, particularly the first time, brings up, every imaginable issue from, family of origin issues, body image, relationship stuff with your own mother, what it means to be a woman, the whole thing around childbirth, but security, just so many things that it brings up. And so I'd really like to kind of develop a part of my practice where I could create, a 10-session series with pregnant women and offer them basically, an hour and a half or 2-hour session where they're getting a massage and we're being able to have this, talk therapy at the same time. So that's something that I'd like to develop in the future.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so needed, especially for new moms.
Yes.
I relate to it from my story is having my son, Kingston, who's now 5, it was really what awoke me to my feminine energy. And before that, I did not trust my feminine side at all. I kind of suppressed it. And therefore, my birth was a little bit traumatic. Like I ended up having a C-section where I really wanted to do it naturally. I don't know if I could have though, because I have a very small frame. And then I was told that I have like a heart-shaped uterus. So like, I think it was hard for him to come out. But anyways, just the lack of support I felt from my doctor. Even I've said this to Roxanne is when I have my next child, I want you to be my doula, and I absolutely love hearing you, Hayden, say that you trusted yourself more than you trusted the doctors. And that's how I kind of what I realized after the fact is like, I don't trust the people at the hospital because they sometimes don't treat you like a human being. They treat you like a number or, just because they're so jaded and they do that every day. And I get it, but still is, then I think they also expect everyone to be doing it the same way. Right.
Well, we could go on this. That's a whole rabbit hole, right, Roxanne?
Yes.
So there's literally 2 models. There's the Western medical model, and then there's, so Ina May Garten has some amazing books. And it really is about, at this point, education, and just reminding people that there is another option, that just because this is the way it's been done for the last 50 years isn't the way they need to do it, and to really advocate for themselves, to do the research, do their own education, and also fundamentally is like tap into, this is where, but it comes from, if they're disconnected from their own wild, natural, instinctual self, they're that's where the disconnect has happened from long ago. That's where the disconnect. So the repair has to start there, where we reconnect to the wild woman who knows how to give birth.
Right.
And asks for support and demands, that her boundaries be respected, her voice is heard, whether that's her own or her partner or her doula or whoever it is. So,
and if you don't have the support from other women around you who have already been through that, that's the whole thing about bringing women together to support each other, because I didn't have that, I was very isolated, and I realized how much now that I'm also creating it in my life with you guys and women who have done it before me, like how important it is to bring women together to talk about these things so you can learn how to tap into it, because you really have to be taught how.
You do.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, our culture is not set up in in a supportive environment. That's the thing for me, because I had a fairly traumatic childbirth in Army hospitals, which is no joke. And I knew that there was other options out there, but I had no resources. And being in a military environment, we moved so much. I literally had physically no support. There was nobody around that I trusted to be myself with even. And there's not a lot of education for young girls other than what
so I think
they see in the media. Unfortunately, things are starting to shift.
I think so too. And I think that you choosing to go down that path is going to be a huge contributor to that shift that we're experiencing. And I think it's really important. So yeah, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
No, it's one of those that, I mean, I wrote my master's thesis, I completed it about 10 years ago. And it's something that I am very passionate about. And it's one of those that I have been hesitant to, like you said, actually go down that path, because it's taking on a whole system.
Yeah,
it is.
It's taking on a whole institution, and it almost has felt like too big. And so I think, and it's not too big, because it just starts, I had to just start with me. And like I said, repair that disconnect, that fundamental disconnect from my own nature. And I had a few years where I was kind of, sort of living unconsciously, and just not really living authentically, not being true to myself. And, in the last few years, I've really come back and done a lot of healing on all levels. And I also think just getting older, being, there's something that happens psychologically, physiologically, with emotionally, spiritually with women that now, all right, I've really stepped into my own power, feminine power, sexual power, personal power in so many ways. So, and that's the way I look at it. I'm like, I have at least 50 more years on this planet. So, I got a lot of work to do still.
Well, I love that so I'm going to segue into the next question with what you were just talking about, is tapping into your power. And I feel like that is part of every woman's essence, is we have this innate inner strength that can deal with a lot of emotional things. So what are some daily practices that you do to tap into your power, to stay in your power in your life?
So, I certainly, I don't like things that are really rigid. I used to live really rigidly in my life. I have sort of English, German, grandmother, upbringing. So I kind of have always rebelled and rejected that rigid, but so I don't have like a real strict thing but the things that I do that I really especially the last year and a half, that I've incorporated into my life, that I do on a regular basis, some every day, some throughout the day. Exercise is extremely important to me. I do a high intensity interval training at a gym that I love at least 3 times a week. So I'm sweating. I think sweat is very important to just get out. I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks, the law of attraction, some more than others. I can kind of go, if I wake up and my head kind of goes, I'll be like, all right, this is going to be like a 3 or 4 Abraham Hicks kind of day. And that just helps me get back to, I'm going to come back to that. I love hot baths with Epsom salt, Himalayan pink salt, baking soda. I've got like 5 things I put in there, essential oils. Meditation / nap. I use a lot of sound therapy. So that is one I do every day. I put it on every night. So healing frequencies, either 432 hertz or something like that, whatever I'm feeling like I need to address, whether it's a deep sleep or some kind of healing frequency I listen to every night. I also incorporate that in my massage practice. So on the days that I work doing massage, I kind of get that all day long. Actually doing massage therapy is extremely healing for me because it puts me into a meditative state. It gets that healing energy flowing, that Reiki flowing. And like I said, as I'm working on balancing the energies with my clients, I can feel like, it's coming through me. So, and then I'm also clearing my energy, whether it's in the bath or in the shower, or just even, taking a moment, kind of cutting all that. So those are kind of the mainly things that I do. And what I was going to say, always realizing that I was a wild woman. I've always had a very strong emotional nature. And like I said, people have told me I'm too intense, too loud, too powerful, too whatever. And when I started listening to Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction, what that really affirmed for me is that it really is about how you feel and that you want to feel good. And so it's like, oh, see, I've been doing something right this whole time.
Right.
But I was like, yay. And so it really, because I would do that, but then what I didn't realize is that my mind, my thoughts were still making me feel bad. So in the last year and a half, it's been really having to identify and let go of a lot of that old programming, which came from, past generations or my parents or my grandparents or school or religion or society, all these beliefs that would say, oh, if I am this sensual and this fun loving, that there's something wrong. If I am this wild, that I'm doing something wrong. And so it's been clearing the programming, really identifying where I was still limiting myself in my own beliefs, clearing that. It's also journaling, so that I have a couple clearing exercises that I can, whether it's clearing a relationship with somebody or clearing those beliefs. And then really that's allowed me to start to get control of my thoughts, so that if I wake up and my head will start to say that, I'm not doing this enough, or comparing myself to someone else, or, there's something wrong, that I'm learning how, and I'm getting better at like training my mind to think good feeling thoughts, and to just say, you know what, you're doing just fine. And that's been a huge thing to allow me to get back in line with who I really am. And I will also say finding some way to clear the energy through exercise, through meditation, through a clearing exercise that I do. And that was the biggest thing. I didn't realize that for 35 years I was carrying around everybody else's shit. Mm-hmm. Because I've always been a healer. I've always been an empath. And so for 30 years, I was just absorbing. And I was like, it was like sludge. So once I learned to start clearing that, it was like the actual channel with my own source and my own power, it started getting clearer and clearer. And now I can feel, when I feel really down and heavy, I know it's usually not mine, and I've got to just clear my energy. So I don't know if that sort of answered your question.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to talk about energy. I know all three of us are really into energy, and how basically everything in the world is energy. Our thoughts, our words, everything is all made up of energy. So
our things.
What'd you say?
Our things, all of our stuff.
Yeah, objects can hold energetic frequencies too, and so I think it's really important to talk about how clearing our own energy, or clearing our space, or, like you said, cutting ties with relationships that were possibly toxic to us, that we could still be holding on in our body, and the moving and exercising is a really great way to move energy through us. But we also have to be diligent about our mind as well, because if we're in our mind, then we're not in our bodies, right? And our body is the thing that's connected to the earth, and so that's where we need to keep that connection to both above and below. And that's why it's called woke wild woman, because the wild woman is connection to earth, and I feel like the woke part is our connection to God, source, higher power, and we need both, and it needs to be balanced. So
Well, yeah, and I think our body is where that happens. I mean, it's I've been all shapes and sizes, heavy, thin, muscular, all that, and I believe that it does start in our mind, but I will tell you, it's a lot easier to feel good about yourself and when you actually are taking care of your physical body as well, when you feel good about your body. And even that there's so much programming around that. That's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. But, but for me, the exercise it's for me, like, and I would love to hear more, Roxanne, about the embodied movement. And I think as a massage therapist, I've always, a very sensual person. So it's the same thing. It's like getting into our body allows us to use our breath, like exercise, like I'm using my breath. I feel it's almost like a moving meditation for me. Yes. Like instead of, and I've told people before when I've done classes, most people think of exercise as a punishment.
Yeah.
And they will literally try to check out from what they're doing. And I say, no, be present with your body when you're doing those squats. Yeah, if they're burning, but like go inside your body and feel your body getting stronger. Feel like appreciate your body. Appreciation. That's one thing that I practice every day as well. But appreciate your lungs expanding and being able to breathe. So really being able to go into, as opposed to
focusing out,
separating from, trying to separate from our body.
Right. I think that's really important because I think, like you had mentioned earlier, with childbirth and how we want to go immediately to turning off, shutting the pain down, and that's we have resistance to pain, and that's all we're feeling is the resistance. And I think a lot of people don't know how to break through the resistance of the pain to actually listen to it and see what it's trying to show you. And I'm relating it to, you did an abdominal massage for me one time, Hayden, and I was noticing, I was deliberately noticing the resistance I had to letting go of the pain, right? But once I allowed myself, I had to, it was all in my mind. I had to allow myself to be like, okay, it's fine, it's going to be okay, just let go. And then finally, that was when the emotional release could happen, right? Yep. And the pain was gone once that happened. Yeah. And it was all because I had to tell myself to let go, tell my body to let go.
Right. Yeah. Our mind is trying to protect us from the pain. And it's interesting to me, if you don't mind me sharing that, what's interesting to me is I remember, I believe it was on one side, you were laughing hysterically, and on the other side, you were sobbing.
Yeah. My masculine side was sobbing.
Yes.
And my feminine side was laughing.
And you know what? I've experienced that myself. I've experienced, absolute emotional release like that on my masculine side as well. And then it's either a physical pain or laughter on the feminine side. So that's just one of the things to start paying attention to is, we hold things in different sides of our body, on the masculine side, the feminine side. And it's just my intention, honestly, whether it's with friends or clients, is to just start to bring more awareness, because we're literally walking around completely disconnected from our bodies, from our thoughts, from all this energy. It's like we're kind of zombies and robots, and it's like, no, people, we're like living, breathing, like right now beings.
The whole point to be on Earth is to feel, is to experience. That's why we have 5 senses.
Well, we have more than that. Well, and the one that I love about right. Yeah. And it's actually quite I've always been, an extremely sensual person, and I mean that literally. Like I feel all of my senses are very heightened and sensitive. Yeah. So I mean, like certain sounds, I will constantly tell my kids, turn that down, because certain sounds on the TV hurt my ears. Yep. I'm very visual, kind of like a man. I like all the beautiful things.
Yeah, and on the other side too, for me, I have a really hard time seeing, like even in movies, seeing
like violence and
violence, and not so much like, I mean, because I do watch a lot of gratuitous violence because I have a husband who likes that kind of war, but really when it's people hurting people, it just
yes.
I mean, I feel it is visceral. So yeah, and that's the thing too. I love that you bring in all these senses, because all those senses are what tap into our feeling.
Yeah.
You know, we can think what we hear, or we can feel what we hear, and we might have two totally different stories about that experience based on where we're telling the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And to go back to, that's why, whether it's, you know, some kind of exercise or yoga or massage or movement therapy is so important, because emotion, that we take in the information through our senses and we process it emotionally, but the emotions are just energy. And so it literally gets stuck in our bodies. So we need to move our bodies or have our bodies manipulated in some way. Sex is also can be a very healing way of doing that.
Energy.
And it's to just move the energy out. It's just move the energy out, you know, it's and not get attached to it, not get stuck to it. That's also another area I have all these things, but really helping people heal from trauma. I believe that trauma is, it's on a mental level and the physical level, but it really is like what you were just saying. It's all those emotions just trapped in the body, you know, and then it's almost like if you look at your house, your body as our house, and we're basically hoarders, right? There's no space. Like, all right. Does that mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Totally.
Yeah.
We like to hoard all those emotions, and then we wonder why we feel bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
we're still thinking about what happened to us 10 years ago and how it made us feel. You know, we're replaying that story in our head and holding on to it. And why? Why are we making ourselves feel bad? We're literally doing it to ourselves. Yeah. Well, I feel like that's a good segue into probably our final question, and then you can talk about how people can contact you. Okay. So it's about, what would you like to expand on to source you to create your, what we call our unreasonable life? So what other people may think is like, oh, that's unreasonable to want all that, you know, like, but we don't believe in that here. We believe in possibility. And so you already touched on, I guess, things you would like to do or what you're creating, but there are any experiences or activities that you want to expand or do for yourself?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really taking on right now is getting some coaching around just my whole financial situation and how to run a business to make that work better. And then that goes back to real quickly the difference of the masculine and the feminine. And so I'm seeing how that's playing out as, you know, and let me just say too, that one is not better than the other. We need both of those, we need them kind of healthy and whole and in balance. So I can see where I've lived out of more of a masculine way of being, but it's been a wounded masculine. And so we need a healthy masculine energy, because that energy is the one that, you know, has structure and discipline and runs a business and, you know, is more linear and assertive and aggressive, all these things. And so in healing that part, that part of my energy is really taking on, you know, that area of my life, which typically hasn't really worked for me. I'm really good at all these other things, but that's kind of the area that's been suffering. So I'm taking on, you know, becoming accountable to a coach who's helping me with the business side and the financial side. So getting that area of my life really working as well as the other areas of my life. And from that being able to do some more trainings. I would like to get certified in Reiki. I already have do some energy work in my practice, but I would like to get certified in Reiki. And there's a somatic healing program in San Francisco that I was looking at. So just really expanding sort of even more so into the energy healing, the somatic healing, bringing more of that for myself and my clients. And what else? And then, honestly, it's just to continue to build my tribe, because I realized how important, like, I was kind of nervous and scared about having, doing this with you ladies this morning. And I found it very, very empowering and clarifying, like being able to just say this out loud. It's like, oh, I actually know a lot more than I think I do sometimes, like, because we just we can get in our head and we can get stuck in that fear and those limiting beliefs. We're like, oh, what am I going to say? And that's like, oh, I do know a lot. I have a lot of power and a lot of really good ideas. So really just staying connected to, and that's something that I do nearly every day, is staying connected to other women like you and male friends that, like I said, we're on this journey, and that we constantly need to be acknowledged and appreciated and remind each other of how powerful we are, how beautiful we are, and really how important the work is that we're doing, and just supporting each other. So I would like to continue to expand on that. I also have had an idea for, some women's retreats that I would like to either create or be part of. I have amazing women all over the country and one in Tulum, Mexico. So I just see a lot of collaboration and stepping into that role in really collaborating with women and eventually men, just to help facilitate the healing that's already happening on the planet, but to bring people together to make that even more powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because it's like we have these big ideas and things that we want to do, and sometimes, like, if you're not constantly focused on them, like, I kind of forgot the last couple months because it was summertime and I was having fun, and I was in the moment, and I was going with the flow, and I was appreciating summertime and being in the ocean and the warm weather. And that's okay. I guess fundamentally, like, it's okay, because there are different seasons, and we're coming into fall and winter, and that being more of an internal time, especially for me as a Capricorn, that is a time to kind of go inside and do more of that inner work. So thank you for allowing me to reframe that also right now, because I was feeling, with the change of season, like kind of that sadness that summer's over. And so I just got excited. This allowed me to get, excited about, what I can focus on now. Like, what do I have to look forward to in the fall and in the winter? So.
Nice. Absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on here and being our first guest. It was really an honor, and you're so brilliant and beautiful, and I love you to death. So is there anything you want to say about your business, where people can contact you if they see this and they want to work with you?
Yes, absolutely. So I am, right now I'm working at a salon in La Mesa, California, which is kind of on the East County of San Diego. It's not all the way east, so it's fairly central, and I'm here about 4 days a week. You can contact me on Facebook. My business page is called The Hayden Touch. I'm also on Instagram, _Hayden_touch. And the salon I am at is called Millicent and Company. And where's the phone number? You can call the salon directly. It is 619-464-3166. And you just can ask for Hayden. Other than that, probably Facebook business page is the best way. But I do basic Swedish deep tissue massage. Like I said, what I really enjoy being able to go deeper with clients that want to do more. And because I do have a master's in counseling psychology, if someone is looking to kind of process something at a deeper level, you know, I'm available for that too. I love doing that work where we can sit and have a longer consultation and really identify, like talk about, so it would be more of a talk therapy with the massage therapy. So we're really addressing like, what's the issue in your life? A lot of people feel stuck. Guess what? There's probably an area in their life where they're literally stuck. So in addition to the talking about it, is that I'm able to do the body work at the same time to help like start moving that energy and releasing what it is that's stuck there. I have had many clients that do it like yourself that have had emotional releases. And so it really, like, fundamentally, I love working with people that want to move forward. You know, they want to grow, they want to evolve. They're not happy just staying right where they are. You know, some people are, and we kind of all go through phases, but if you have been feeling stagnant and you want to move some energy, come see me and we'll work that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, I want to talk about my experience because, I mean, you are one of my closest friends, but you've also done work with me, and even just being women, like, I think that's what we're there to do for each other, is to allow each other the space to like release things. And I know that even when you weren't giving me a massage, you know, you've allowed me to release things and help me process things and give me your take on what you see is happening. Because sometimes when we're in our situation and we're in that emotional thing that we just can't let go of, or we can't really, we're trying to figure out, for me, it's always finding the lesson in it. So I'm always like, why am I still feeling this, you know? And it's usually because you have to release something. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the lesson it's trying to teach me? And I'm the one who's like impatient. Like, I just want to come on. I just want to move on now. And so Hayden is so amazing at holding that space, you know, with no judgment. And I was able to, like, I don't cry in front of a lot of people, but like I've bawled in front of Hayden multiple times.
I think I am too with you. So.
Yeah. And so it's just, she has a way of holding you, like not letting you off the hook. Like, so she's going to tell you what she sees, but she's going to do it in a loving way, and not allow you to fall back into your story, not allow you to not release what you're trying to release. She's going to remind you, no, this is going to be good for you. You know, like, keep going. It's okay. You know? So, I think a lot of the times we miss that person who can help guide us along the process. I think that's what it is, you know, we can sometimes, all these feelings come up and it gets really scary and then we don't know what to do with it. And so I think that you do a great job of helping the person process, you know, what's actually happening and how to move forward from there. And making me see also that it's like, you can just let it go. It doesn't have to be, you know, it's not a big deal. It's gone.
Thank you. I thank you. What I want to say about that is, I've faced a lot of shit. I've faced, like, fundamentally at the end of the day, like, I don't think anybody does it perfectly. I think we go through sort of an ebb and a flow where we all kind of try to avoid it. And eventually, like, you either know yourself as someone who eventually will face it and feel the feelings, or not, and I know I do this, and I've avoided things for years, but I also know who I am for myself is somebody that will eventually face it and sit there and feel the feelings and, like, go into it. And I know it can be extremely scary and very uncomfortable, which is why we avoid it for sometimes years at a time. Right. And so really it comes from that. I think that's what I offer people, is the holding the space that, like, it is okay. You can do it. Like, like, it's okay. Like, I basically, like, Mama Bear, like, I got you. You can do it. And also, like you said, without judgment, because we've all done some shit. Like, okay. Yeah. And, we have all done some shit. And it's just, I know what's on the other side. I know the freedom that's on the other side when you can, say in the presence of a person that you can trust and that is safe, when you can say what there is to say, when you can when you can cry the tears, when you can, release those emotions, that the freedom that's on the other side is it's amazing. It's profound. And that, like, ultimately I want that freedom for myself, and I want it for everyone, whether you're my friend or we're in a, romantic relationship, or my family. And, not everybody's willing to do that. And I think that fundamentally is like the woke wild woman. It's like, you either are or you're not. Kind of.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're either going to look at it and face it, or you're not.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Hayden.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies. This is so amazing. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I just got tremendous value out of being able to share all this with you. I look forward to the success of this podcast. Please let me know how I can support you guys as well in your personal businesses and on the podcast.
We'll probably have you back on at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, let's have many more conversations. You are a wealth of wisdom and knowledge and power and grace, and I want to learn more about what what you've experienced, because I feel like the more that we can all share our stories, the more we all realize that we're connected and we all have similar experiences. And what you said, if you can say it and let it out, it's such freedom.
Yeah.
It takes away its power over you. Like, if it really does.
It really does. If I could just share one more thing. I finally watched A Star Is Born last weekend. And I mean, that movie, I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful love story, but it cut me wide open, because I'm sitting here going, what I really got from that is, the reasons, and I've had issues with alcohol as well as many in my family, but what I clearly saw was that the original trauma is what causes, the alcoholism or the drug addiction. And then even once he got sober, he couldn't say what there was to say. Wow. And when her manager talked to him and basically said, you almost derailed her, that whole scene, and you could just see him, it just totally, it absolutely killed his spirit. Yeah. And that none of that had to happen if he could have just said what there was to say. Yeah. If he could have released this feeling, but it was like he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. And I was sobbing.
Seriously, that movie was so sad to me. It broke my heart.
It's heartbreaking, and people do that every day. They think that's the easier, softer way, and I'm here to tell you it's not. As scary as it is, there's something so liberating and empowering when you can say what there is to say. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think
speak it out.
Yes. We're going to leave it at that so that people can ponder what they need to say. Yes. Hopefully whoever's watching this will, get something out of it and realize that.
I'm going to go ponder now. What is it that I need to say?
There's freedom in speaking your truth, right? Speaking your truth. Like, what are we so afraid of?
Right.
We get so afraid of our own voices and our own power and our own truth, because we think that we're going to be condemned for it. But yeah, we are in the age of empowering all of our individuality. So yes.
Well, and that's the part too about being authentic, is like, I'm sitting here saying that to everybody else, and then I hear the little voice in my head that says, well, what do you need to say, Hayden? Like,
yeah, what do you
yourself, right? You're pointing the finger, take a look at the three pointing back at you, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to take on today, is looking at what is it that I need to say, like what's coming up, so that I can be honest and transparent and authentic.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have all of your contact information posted with the video if people want to get a hold of you. And thank you so much again. I love you guys.
Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks,
you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.